What is good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the ChillTakes podcast. I'm your host, Darian Harris, also known as ChillTakes on all my major social media platform. Man, as you can see in the title today, we are recapping Week 10 of the NFL season. Now, of course, this podcast is being recorded during Monday. Monday Night Football has not been played yet. We have the Bills and Broncos, and I'll get into that game at the end of this episode. But I want to talk about what happened and what transpired on Sunday, man, because we had a lot of notable things that happened, some good and also some bad for a few teams out there. Before we get things started, please, if you're not already following or subscribed to this YouTube channel, please subscribe. The viewership is not bad; it's pretty good for my sub count. But anyways, I thank y'all for tapping in. So let's get started with this episode, man, because whew, boy, like I said, a lot to talk about. As a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, I will spend majority of this podcast talking about the Jags, of course. But I want to run across a few of the teams out there before I get into the Jaguar segment. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, man. The Browns came into this matchup against the Ravens as not really a heavy underdog, but an underdog for sure in this AFC North matchup, man. The Ravens have arguably looked like the best team in football. Their defense is playing lights out, and their offense has continuously been able to find their groove throughout these last few weeks or so, right? And the Ravens got off to a very hot start in this matchup. Deshaun Watson came out flat per usual from what we've seen from him this season, right? I think he started the game off with 1 for 9, less than 100 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, and of course, an interception he threw on his first pass attempt to Kyle Hamilton. And it looked as if the Cleveland Browns were going to get routed. And that didn't transpire, man. That did not happen because their defense, we've been talking about this entire season so far, has been the catalyst of the success of this Browns team. And they showed up once again on Sunday, man. In that second half, Deshaun Watson picked up his end of the bargain as well. He played amazing football. I want to say he finished 14 for 14, something like that. 134 yards passing, 16 rushing yards, a touchdown, 0 interceptions, and he played lights out, man. He played within the offense, made big time throws, and he looked like a slimmer, right? A very small dose of what we saw from him during his fantastic years in Houston, right? Because when he was a Texan, he was arguably a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, right? You couldn't name too many more quarterbacks better than Deshaun Watson outside of Mahomes, Rodgers, and Brady, in my opinion, right? So anyways, Browns had a fantastic comeback. The defense made key stops over and over again. They made Lamar Jackson uncomfortable. They pretty much said, "Hey, we're going to stop this running attack and make the receivers, what I'm saying, get open against our back end secondary." And they had trouble doing that, right? I think I want to say the Browns were going to halftime down 17-6. I mean, they were down like 17-9 heading into the fourth quarter, and they had an explosion offensively. So did the Ravens as well. But the Ravens couldn't do enough when it mattered most, and Cade York sent the Browns home with a game walk-off winning field goal. So shout out to the Browns, man. They currently sit in second place, and given the season so far, man, I think we need to put some respect on the squad, dog. I think if they would have had Nick Chubb on this lineup, if he was healthy, I think we'll be talking about the Browns as being arguably the best team in football. Excuse me. I think we realized that quarterback play isn't the end all be all of your team if you have great surrounding pieces around that quarterback, right? They have a solid offense, even with Nick Chubb not being there, right? They have a solid running attack under Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt. Their offensive line is still one of the best groups in the NFL, in my opinion. Amari Cooper is having such a phenomenal season, right? They're getting some good football out of their other receivers as well. I mean, DPJ is not even there anymore, right? So they're getting, younger guys involved that I don't even know the name of right now. I mean, I don't want to say Cedric Tillman because I don't know if he's getting playing time. Let's see. I don't want to check my phone on the podcast, but let's see what receivers got involved because I'm really interested because DPJ did get traded to the Lions, and I know he was their wide receiver too. So let's see what receivers got active, right? Amari Cooper had 98 yards, 6 receptions. David Njoku had a big day. Elijah Moore. And outside of those 3 guys, man, no one else got involved. I mean, I see some attempts to, Atkins and Harrison Bryant. But, guys like, James Prochet and Cedric Tillman haven't got involved into the offense. And I think once you get Tillman involved, that kind of can replace that DPJ role. I think this offense can get even better, right? But Amari, Njoku, Elijah Moore, and the running attack have been holding this Browns team down. And of course, the defense is playing lights out as well. Man, I think if they keep up with this defensive season so far, I think Myles Garrett will be a shoe-in for Defensive Player of the Year. He is still playing phenomenal football. I still think he is tied for first in sacks this season with around 10, I want to say. Zadarius Smith is playing good football. Greg Newsome is playing good football. Denzel Ward is playing good football. Juan Thornhill, who they brought in the offseason, has been playing amazing football as well. I mean, this team so far is just Jim Schwartz has really turned that entire unit around, given the fact that they were very underwhelming last year, right? So, put some respect on this Browns team. I think they can definitely be in the playoffs. And, who knows? They might catch lightning in a bottle and just be that Cinderella team you don't want to face come playoff time, man, because that defense is legit and they can really, hold his own. And it's going to keep the Browns in every single game this season until, they come across an injury of some sorts, right? Knock on wood and, God, Lord willing, that doesn't happen. But yeah, man, this Browns team is definitely legit, and we need to put some respect on the squad, man, regardless of what's happening with the inconsistency with the quarterback play, man. So shout out to the Brownies, man. Big time win in the AFC North. And like I said, man, they're currently sitting in second place. And I still think they're better than the Steelers. I think if they match up against Steelers at home, they'll beat them. And I don't know who will win in that Bengals rematch, man, because it'll be in Cincy next time around. And I'm not sure who's going to win that game. So moving on, let's stick into the AFC North. Let's talk about the Bengals and Texans, right? The Bengals were a very hot team these last few weeks, right? They were riding a 5-game winning streak, and they were coming into a game against another hot team, right? The Houston Texans. Um, they're currently sitting at 5-4, and they had some tough losses against the Falcons and the Panthers, if I'm not mistaken, right? These last 4 weeks or so, but they had a good win against the Buccaneers in comeback fashion right at home in NRG Stadium. And they went on the road and replicated the same thing in Cincy against a red-hot Bengals team who was starting to click offensively, right? But Stroud and that Texans offense, man, they put it together and they made big-time play after big-time play. I mean, they almost gave the game away, of course, because they're a young team. They're still figuring out how to win, given the fact that they've been pretty bad these last few years. But, man, when you have a franchise quarterback that can uplift the deficiencies of your squad, you're never out of a game, man. That was proven once again yesterday, man. The Texans got a big time win on the road. They won 30-27 against this Cincinnati Bengals team. I mean, honestly, you can say that CJ Stroud outperformed Joe Burrow, which is crazy to say. Stroud has been amazing this year. I think, I've been seeing on the timeline a little bit here and there. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with having in consideration for the NFL MVP this year, given the season he's having and also the success around this team so far, right? They're 5-4, and I want to say they're sitting in 7th place or outside of the in the wild card hunt. In the AFC playoffs right now, right? And they're also only one game back. No, I think either 2 games or 1.5 games back, or maybe just 1 game back from the AFC South first place standings right now, right? Because like I said, they're 5-4, and the Jaguars currently sit at 6-3. So they control their own destiny going forward, man. They could possibly sneak into the playoffs, given the fact that the Jets lost this past week, right? You're looking at Buffalo, right? Can they hold their own against the Broncos tonight, right? The Chargers lost this past week, so the gates are opening up for a potential playoff run for the Texans to close out the season, man, which is crazy to say, but shout out to that offense, man. Noah Brown played amazing football yesterday. Devin Singletary had no, not Devin Singletary. It was yes, Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary had an immaculate day on the ground. Right? I think he rushed for over 127 yards. I think he had around like 30 carries, something like that. I mean, they just pounded the football, leaned on the run game. I'm saying? The run game opened up the passing attack. And, the Bengals and Louisiana Rumbles defense had no answer for, which is pretty surprising given the fact that they shut down the Bills, they shut down the Niners, they shut down the Seahawks. I mean, they had a pretty good stout defense consistency these last few weeks, man. But the Texans offense is a serious problem. As for the Bengals offense, I think, they couldn't move the ball at key times, right? I think they kind of, found themselves trickling back to the struggles they've had earlier this year, right? The offensive line didn't play their best brand of football, in my opinion. There were a couple times that Orlando Brown got beat pretty bad in his reps, right? I think they were unable to establish a consistent run game with Joe Mixon, which they've pretty much been doing their entire season so far. All right, Joe Burrow played good, but Tyler Boyd had a costly turnover towards the end of the game, if I'm not mistaken, right? Even though he played good, T. Higgins wasn't healthy, of course. Jamar Chase played good. It was one of those games where the Bengals kind of slept walk for a little bit in this game. And when they try to make their, those comebacks they usually make in these matchups, it was a little too late, man. So, as for the Bengals going forward, man, they have to start out these games a lot faster and and keep their foot on the pedal, man, because they fell asleep at the wheel when they were up 7-0 at one point during this game. And then long before they knew it going into halftime, they were down 10-7, and they were never able to get that lead back until I don't think they were able to get the lead back at all, if I'm not mistaken. If they did, they had it for a little bit, a brief time early in the fourth quarter. So yeah, man, hats off to the Texans. Big time win. The AFC South is by no means over whatsoever for the Jaguars. They still got a lot of games to win. We'll talk about that here soon. And as for the Bengals, man, I mean, they're sitting in last place in AFC North. I mean, they're still in the wild card hunt. They're still a very dangerous team, in my opinion. Still arguably one of the best teams in football, still, in my opinion. They are just having a tough time winning the games they're supposed to win, right? So, you know, we'll see what happens going forward with this Bengals squad. I still believe in them, but they have to figure out to put that consistency together. Just for a lot of teams in this league, not named the Niners, Eagles, or Chiefs, right? They have to continue to put together consistency. So we'll see them come playoff time, man. But like I said, huge shout out to the Texans. Big time win. And as for the Bengals, I wouldn't panic, at all, man. You're sitting at 5-4. Still plenty of football to be played. And moving over to the NFC real quick, I want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, man. In dominant fashion, once again, they blew the Giants out the water, which we all knew coming in. I think the Giants were favored. They were underdogs in this game by, I want to say, 17 and a half points, right? They were plus 17 and a half, and they didn't even cover, if I'm not mistaken, right? Then the final score is 48-17. And with the math, that ain't covering. So, shout out to the Cowboys, man. Very, very, very big, just dominating win, dominating fashion, right? Dak Prescott is arguably playing the best football in his career right now. I mean, he had a 4 touchdown day, inconvenient 1 interception, but, nevertheless, over 404 yards, great completion percentage. I mean, Mike McCarthy is calling up a very good offense. It's not with the gimmicks. It's not with the, what I'm saying, the no nonsense type of offense where it's ground and pound, but we're still gonna, air the football out and get our best players involved. CeeDee Lamb has now had 5 straight games with over 100 yards receiving. I think this was his 3rd straight game with over 150 yards receiving. So big time game for him once again. Brandon Cooks had over 100 yards in the receiving department, man. And like I said, man, this offense is playing good. Their defense is always going to show. We're not worried about the defense, right? But this offense played good, man, and they're currently sitting at 6-3. In the NFC right now. Unfortunately, they're still in second place in the NFC East. But they're going to be a dangerous wild card team come playoff time. Once again, man. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Dak Prescott right now. I think a lot of people need to start talking about it more. I mean, like I said, he is playing smart, decisive football. He's throwing in anticipation. He's limiting the turnovers, and he's just overall playing good, man. I can only count on my hands probably like 3 games that I've seen Dak play utterly bad this year, and that was against the Niners. Who else he played bad against? He played good against the Jets. I'm trying to think. I think he had like 2 more pretty lackluster performances. I don't know. Maybe he's only had like 2 bad games this year to keep it a buck, right? So, and that's a big improvement in comparison to last year. But it all points back to the play calling, and we're going to talk about the play calling here with the team, the Jaguars, because you're seeing how certain teams out there, have taken the head coaches that are known play callers have been more, intricate, in the game plan, this season in regards to, other teams out there that have, said coordinators or said offensive minded coaches that are leaning on these coordinators that are still struggling to put up points on the board, right? You know what I'm saying? So, uh, hats off to the Cowboys. Like I said, playing amazing football. They're taking care of business as they should, right? Sticking at the NFC, the Minnesota Vikings found a way to win again against a very uh, solid Saints team, in my opinion, man. I had the Saints winning this matchup. I think everybody did, right? I didn't think we'll be able to see Josh Dobbs replicate back-to-back successes with a team he is just now getting acclimated to, man. But, there's a fairy tale story being developed up there in Minnesota. I mean, they currently sit at, I want to say, 5-4, you know, second place in the NFC North, right? You had the Packers, or not the Packers. You had the Lions still on the schedule here soon. The Lions had a big time win against the Chargers on the road in LA. But my goodness, man, it's setting up for a huge showdown. Vikings and Lions, here in a few weeks, and you're gonna have Justin Jefferson back in the lineup too, healthy, right? I thought the Vikings probably thought they could possibly, not have to worry about playing Jettas for the remainder of this year. But man, they're playing for the playoffs. I mean, they're playing playoff football, they're gearing up for, right? I think they can get into the wild card spot, given the certain state of the NFC right now, man. Josh Dobbs, 268 yards, 1 touchdown. The run game is getting so much better, and I think that's huge because of a quarterback like Dobbs being able to utilize his legs, man. Tyson Chandler gave you 50 yards on the ground, roughly around 50 yards on the ground, on 14 carries, right? This Vikings run game so far this season hasn't been that good, but now with Josh Dobbs being in that the backfield, have to account for him, escaping the pocket on these read options or just being a threat with his legs, it's opening up the running holes and running lanes for these running backs, man. Which is unfortunate for Cam Akers' sake, because I think he would have been a nice addition to this offense going forward, but he unfortunately tore his ACL or his Achilles. But man, Chandler stepping up, Alex Madison is going to continue to step up, of course. I mean, TJ Hawkinson had a big day. Right, Jordan Addison is still playing good football. KJ Osborne still playing good football. Once Jettas comes back to this offense, man, Kevin O'Connell is going to be able to really, do some things with this Vikings offense we haven't seen probably since his time there. I know Kirk Cousins has been phenomenal under Kevin O'Connell, but Josh Dobbs has been able to come in and replicate similar success. Not, of course, airing it out all over the field, but being able to keep the offense stable, put up points, and keep drives alive, right? And credit to Josh Dobbs, man. Like I said, his story so far this season has been amazing. A true journeyman quarterback that's been able to, overcome the bad, unfortunate circumstances he's faced so far this year. But man, he played lights out once again against a respectable Saints defense, right? Arguably a top 10 defense in football, and he's pushing the ball down the field, airing it out. And a lot of people out there might have said, oh, well, it might have been a little fluky against the Falcons, but we're seeing against a very respectable defense, and he did damn near the same things, right? Also for this Vikings defense, man, I think that's another reason why this season has been such a huge turnaround for him, man. Brian Flores was an excellent hire in the offseason, but we didn't know how fast this defense could, gel, given the fact that they didn't have the correct players. Well, not correct players, but the most fitting players for his personnel in the lineup, right? But man, they're playing good football. The cornerback play is getting better by the week. The safety play is getting better. Their front forwards getting better, the linebackers are getting better. Overall, this defense is getting better. And we noticed that once they faced the Niners a few weeks back, how they shut down the Niners offense and made life pretty uncomfortable for Brock Purdy, right? And that was a game that we thought they were going to get blown out by 2 on Monday Night Football, and they had a shocking win, right? So, hats off to this Viking squad, man. Their general manager did some good things at the trade deadline. Trading for Josh Dobbs was huge, kept the season alive. Jettas will be back healthy here soon. And man, like I said, this Vikings team can definitely get to the playoffs and, be a Cinderella team in the NFC, just in comparisons to the Cleveland Browns in the AFC, right? It's a team you don't want to face right now because they're red hot. They're playing good defense and they can really spoil your season. So hats off to the Vikings, man. I still think the NFC North does still run through Detroit, but the Vikings are not going to make this easy whatsoever. Moving back to the AFC, let's close this podcast out on the major topics, talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars and their embarrassing loss. I'm gonna take my time with this, right? Because I'm a Jaguars fan, as you all know, and I have to get my takes off about my squad and their lackluster offensive performance, man. Terrible showing. You only put up 3 points in the NFL. Anytime you only put up 3 points in the NFL is embarrassing, in my opinion, man. You have offensive struggles for sure. Either your quarterback play is terrible, you have a bad play caller, or just top to bottom, you don't have enough talent offensively, right? And I think the Jaguars do have a very good quarterback. I think he's top 10 when he's playing on his A game. And I think they do have enough talent to put up more than 3 points on the board, right? They have one of the best offenses on paper in the NFL. So it all points back to play calling, right? Throughout this entire season so far, we've seen this Jaguars offense have a very lackluster start to the season offensively. And we saw it last year at times throughout the season, right? Against, key games being against the Broncos, Texans, the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Turnovers, being able to, not execute, correctly on the field, right? We're just seeing a lot of that stuff unfold into this season. And fortunate enough, our defense has been, on a better page, because if they weren't, we probably would have a losing record right now, right? And it's very unfortunate because we thought this offense was going to be better than it was last year, right? We thought they were going to have that. They had that strong into the season, and we thought they were going to be able to pick that up and continue it into this year, right? Pick up the baton and keep it going. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, they've pretty much plateaued, right? You can blame it on injuries, but I'm not going to sit up here and say that Zay Jones is the reason why my offense sucks right now. I think it comes back to play calling, right? Coming into the season, Doug Peterson gave the play calling duties to Press Taylor, and I don't think he should have done that, man. I know he's talked about it in press conferences how the reason on why he gave Press Taylor play calling duties was to have him more focused on in-game management, right? Understanding how he can help out the defense, right? Which is true because the defense has been better this year. But, I don't think Press Taylor earned that responsibility in being able to call plays, right? He hasn't shown us anything during his time as a play caller or even an offensive quarterbacks coach in this league to trust him enough to call plays. I saw a tweet earlier yesterday that during Doug Peterson's time in Philadelphia, of course, he was fired because he wanted, him and Howie Roseman couldn't come to an agreement on certain things, right? And, he is unfortunate for, basically tanking that season away his last year there, right? Then he went like 4-7-1. And Howie Roseman basically was like, I'm not going for you allowing Press Taylor to be your OC, right? If you want to keep Press Taylor as your OC, you got to get out of town. That's what happened, right? Took that year out of football, got better as a coach. You know what I'm saying? He's done some great things for the Jaguar squad, right? He's done amazing things, right? Playoffs in year one and an excellent start to the season, the best season start we've had in this era of Jaguars football. But, it points back to Howie Roseman not agreeing with Press Taylor calling plays. You know, Press Taylor, his year of calling plays are being more centered as a play caller for the Eagles offense that season. They had a terrible year offensively, and Carson Wentz had one of his worst years as a quarterback, right? And that might have been that could have been a start of the downfall of Carson Wentz if we're being honest, right? Because after that season, of course, Carson went through major injuries, of course, as well, but he was never able to bounce back. Well, he had a good time in Indianapolis a year after, right, with Frank Wright, you know what I'm saying? But I just feel like Press Taylor's not made for calling plays. We're seeing the regression of Trevor Lawrence. I'm seeing people tweet out, past performances of Trevor Lawrence last year against the Cowboys, Chargers, you know, uh, Baltimore Ravens, where he's throwing 300 plus yard games, 3 to 4 touchdowns a game. The completion percentage is still high, and we're not seeing that this year, man. I think Trevor only has one game where he's thrown for over 300 yards passing, and I think he only has one game where he's thrown for more than 2 touchdowns, if that, right? So obviously the offense has regressed in the passing attack. The run game has gotten better because of Travis Etienne's greatness, right? He's improved as a running back in year 2 of his NFL career, but overall, the offense is lackluster, man. The passing attack is one of the league's worst. They can't stretch the field. They can't push the ball down the field. We saw that last year, and we thought bringing in someone like Calvin Ridley was going to improve that. And unfortunately, Calvin Ridley hasn't lived up to the expectations we put on him. But I don't put that on Calvin Ridley, right? I don't think Calvin Ridley is the reason why this offense sucks. I think it's because of play calling, man. There's no reason for me to believe that the same offense last year, minus a veteran tackle who we replaced with Anton Harris, who in my opinion is better right now, in replacing Ben Barch with Walker Little, arguably our best lineman, and also bringing in Calvin Ridley to help out a receiving core that was overachieving last year at times, into what we're seeing so far this year, man. It all points back to play calling, man. Doug Peterson needs to take advantage, or not take advantage, but needs to take control back over the play calling duties, man. It's unacceptable at this point, man. We're tired of it. It's embarrassing to watch. This team is too damn good to not be able to put up more than 3 points against any team in the league, right? I don't give a damn if the Niners are a contending Super Bowl team, right? If they're like a real contender. I mean, we couldn't get past the 50 at times last year, right? It took us until like our 5th drive to put points on the board. That's embarrassing for a team that arguably has a top 10 quarterback in football, a top 5 running back in football, and a top 15 receiving core in football with an average offensive line, right? And at home at that, not on the road, but at home, right? So, and you're coming off a bye week. You're coming off a bye week as well. So, you know, going forward, there needs to be changes. And, there's reports out there that, you know, certain things might have happened in the back office and the front office with the Jaguars in regards to, demands of Doug Peterson taking back over the play calling duties. I don't know how true that is, but if it is, I mean, we should see the offense being a lot more fluid and better going forward. I'm sorry, I know Doug Peterson tried his hardest to, give Press Taylor an opportunity, but I was never a fan of the hire, anyways. Right? I always thought that Jim Bob Cooter was a better fit for play calling duties instead of Press Taylor, right? Because Jim Bob Cooter has proven himself as a solid play caller in the NFL during his time with Detroit in the early days with Matthew Stafford. So, overall, man, not a fan of this offense right now. It's hard to watch. I mean, Nick Bosa came out and said it himself. If you take away the RPOs, the bubble screens, and make Trevor Lawrence play quarterback and make him read a defense and go through the progressions, you're going to stop them. Not because of Trevor being a bad quarterback. I didn't take it that way. I just think it's because of the limitations of what's been put in front of him, man. They play a very conservative offense. They don't try to push the ball down the field at all. If you watch the game, if you watch the all 22 recap or the highlights, those corners out there in San Fran are sitting down on everything underneath. They have no fear of getting burnt over the top. And that's a problem. That is a serious problem, man. And also given the fact that our offensive line played one of the worst games of the season so far, right? I mean, I understand the Niners have a fantastic front four, but I mean, like, they were rushing forward. They didn't have to send any blitzers. They were getting after it with Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Eric Armstead, and Javon Hargrave. And I understand they have a phenomenal all-pro D-line. But I don't give a damn, man. The Jaguars are supposedly be in contention for deep playoff runs, right? Their offensive line isn't filled with rookies. It's only one rookie, and he played okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, he arguably has been our best lineman this year, in my opinion. I think Anton Harrison has arguably been our best lineman. Also, of course, Brandon Schertz, but Brandon Schertz has been up and down as well. But given his role, given his status as a player in this league, you can make a case that Anton Harrison has been our best lineman this year, and that's saying a lot. So, overall, I mean, I think you have to cut out the cuteness, get back to Doug calling the plays, because when Doug calls plays, it sets up plays for later things to happen in the game, right? He sees the game at such an excellent level, bro. He's a Super Bowl head coach. I don't understand why certain coaches in this league give up duties to, you know what I'm saying, their coordinators. We saw it out there in Buffalo with Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott is one of the best defensive-minded coaches in football. And he had Leslie Frazier running his defense for about 3 years. And of course, Leslie Frazier had some success in the regular season, but when it came playoff time, his defense always got gashed. And what happened this past year, they moved on from Leslie Frazier, and his defense in totality, given the injuries, has been better because he took back over the play calling duties. It's the offense that's having issues out there in Buffalo. But, the defense has gotten better, right? I mean, I'm watching Andy Reid still call plays. Now, of course, losing Eric Bieniemy has been a hit to this offense, but I think it's more so because they have lack of talent at the receiver position. They're still putting up 40 points a game, not 40 points a game, but still putting up 40 balls in the game, right? And the Jaguars have yet to even score more than 38 points this year. And I know it's the NFL, but, I mean, I would like to see us put up, I want us to have an offense like the Lions, man. The Lions can score at any given moment in their games, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm watching San Fran, Kyle Shanahan, he ain't giving up play coolies. Excuse me. Kyle Shanahan's not giving up play call duties, and his coordinators are getting higher left and right every single year offensively, right? Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay, right? I mean, Mike McDaniel's calling plays out there in Miami, right? Darren Bell might be his OC, but he is calling plays. He is dictating the game plan offensively. And I think Doug Peterson, no matter what he has said about, yeah, I'm involved, you know what I'm saying? No, man, like, I can tell when you're involved in certain things and not. Like, in the second half of that Texans game, even though we got blown out, I can tell the offense looked better, right? I don't mind getting beat in a game when your offense looks cohesive. This offense has no cohesion, right? They look out of sorts. They look lost out there, right? There's times in the game where I'm watching Trevor Lawrence make checks and audible calls and readjustments to the line into the original play calling, and the receivers aren't comprehending it, right? They're going out there doing the exact opposite of what he's asking for, and he's getting frustrated. And of course, he turned the ball over a lot. I mean, I don't even know what the yardage was. He didn't pass over 200 yards yesterday. He threw 2 interceptions, and it was arguably the worst game I've ever seen him in his career. And that's saying something because his rookie season was very hard to watch, right? And also beginning of last year was hard to watch. So this is the same quarterback last year that had big time performances against the Ravens, Chargers, Cowboys, second half of the Chargers game in the playoffs. I mean, this quarterback is capable of doing some great things, man. There's a reason why he's getting that top 10 notoriety, right? Top 5 notoriety, depending on who you're talking to in the media and also in this landscape of the NFL. But if you're going to continue to trot out Press Taylor to be your OC and call these plays, he's going to kill Trevor's confidence that was already pretty dwindled after his first year, and you're going to continue to be a faulty in his development as a quarterback in this league, man. Because in my opinion, you have 3 to 4 years to really know what you have as at your quarterback in the NFL. I think he is still a franchise quarterback, but as of right now, like my boy Merlin said, I think he is a fringe Pro Bowl quarterback as of right now. And that's very frustrating to understand and comprehend that and realize that, given the fact that he was considered a generational prospect in the NFL, entering the NFL draft back in 2021. So, overall, I'm hoping for the best for this offense. They have the Titans coming up, and then they have the Texans and Bengals. 3 more games to really know what I can see from this season going forward, right? I've always said it, I don't know if I made podcasts at the beginning of the season, but on my TikToks, I always said the Jaguars playing about 5 to 6 games this year is going to let me know how they are against contending teams, right? The Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Bengals, Browns, and of course the Niners, right? They are currently 1-2 in those games. You have the Bengals coming up, you have a red hot Texans team coming up, you have the Ravens coming up, and the Browns coming up on the schedule as well, and also Tennessee twice. So I know Tennessee's bad, but they've been an anchor, or they've been a thorn in this team's side for the whole decade of the whole duration of their time being in the league, right? Their whole existence of the NFL. So, the Jaguars still have plenty of football to be played. They can get better, but it starts this week against Tennessee, man. I expect this offense to play better. I expect Trevor Lawrence to play better, right? But if it's not this week, it's never going to happen, man. They're going to continue to be lackluster. They continue to struggle. And if they do get to the playoffs, they're going to limp into the playoffs and get bounced in the first round. And okay, that might be unfortunate, right? Because as a Jaguars fan, I did have a little bit higher expectations, but also the closest statement out, this whole topic of conversation out. I think Jaguar fans need to have a evaluation with their expectations coming into the season, right? I think for me personally, I'm not surprised to see stuff like this because I never had this team getting to a championship, right? I never had this receiving core being top 10 in football, right? I was kind of fringed to have Trevor Lawrence as the top 6 quarterback in this league, given what we saw last year, right? I wanted to see more from him, and I still think he is a top 6 quarterback around the 7 to 9 range. But I wasn't, beating the drum saying he was better than Allen. I wasn't beating the drum saying he was better than Herbert because I've seen those quarterbacks perform at levels consistently without, what I'm saying, the best of play calling at times, right? I feel like Trevor needs a lot of help right now in his career in the league, and I think he is being limited at times given the fact that they're trying to make him more of a conservative quarterback instead of him go out there and let him play free roaming football, right? I think, and that's a hindrance to his game in my opinion, right? Because he's better than that. He has a big time arm, and they rarely use it, right? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, overall, man, Jaguar fans, they're 6-3. We're 6-3. We're still in first place in the AFC. Now, of course, this time last year, the Titans were 7-2 in the AFC, and they came down to the last game for them to blow it and not make the playoffs. But they dealt with the gauntlet of injuries. We don't have that right now. We're relatively pretty healthy in major areas, and we're going to get guys back here soon, right? I think Zay Jones should be back by the Texans or Bengals game, hopefully, right? You know what I'm saying? The back end is getting healthy. I know. Tyson Campbell is dealing with a hamstring injury, but I'm not worried about the defense. When the defense held their end of the bargain, you just can't hold offenses in this league to less than 20 points, given the fact that they have all pro players everywhere on that offense and defense. So, hats up to the Niners, man. Great football from them. You know what I'm saying? They're heading to the Super Bowl this year for sure, or at least to the NFC Championship. As for the Jaguars, as of right now, they're looking like a one and done playoff team. Hopefully this offense gets better. They have the tools to get better, but they have to get the play callings back to Doug Peterson ASAP, man, because if they continue to let Prescott call plays, it's going to be a hindrance of the season, and you're going to really kill the confidence and the play and the overall thought of Trevor Lawrence being a top 5 quarterback in his league eventually. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it gets better. I think it will get better. I'm not overreacting because I've seen this team get bounced by the Texans week 3 and they strung off 6 straight games. So, what I'm saying? It's NFL. It's week by week league. Anything can happen. We're 6-3 heading into week 11. We're fine. Just take care of business when the game is supposed to win. And please show some competency and win against the Bengals and Ravens to close out this year, man. I don't really care what happens against the Browns, but you got to beat the Bengals and Ravens, right? You have primetime football in your stadium, in your town. You're currently 2-3 at home so far this year. That's not good in my. Actually, no. Well, considering the home games, they are currently 1-3 at home. Lost to the Chiefs, lost to the Niners, lost to the Texans, beat the Colts. They're currently 1-3 at home. It's not good, man. 5-2 on the road, it's not bad, but 1-3 at home. Technically 2-4 at home. Well, given the London games, but 1-3 in Duval County, man. It's not good. Last year, we were a very good home team, right? We'll be down in multiple scores, and we'll come back and win. You know what I'm saying? So, um, hopefully it gets better, man. But overall, man, that's my take on NFL Week 10. Also, to close out this podcast real quick, Broncos and Bills tonight. It's going to be a big-time game in Buffalo. The Broncos are coming into this matchup red hot as well, man. They're underratedly right now. They're 3-2 in their last 5 games. Russell Wilson's playing good football this year. This defense is finding their groove. You know, and the Bengals, well, not Bengals, excuse me, the Bills are kind of limping into this game right now, right? They're 2-3 in their last 5 games, right? Josh Allen is playing too much hero ball. They're getting banged up pretty badly off defensively. But on the bright side, it's in Orchard Park, it's in Buffalo. The Bills are very tough to beat at home, no matter what they put out there in weeks past, right? I think they're undefeated at home so far this year. It's gonna be a tough game. I expect Buffalo to win, but if they don't, my goodness, man, the Buffalo Bills are definitely in trouble, and the Broncos could possibly go on a second half surge to close out this year and possibly compete for a wild card spot as well, man. But we'll see what happens. I'll check back in with y'all sometime before Thursday Night Football or after Thursday Night Football. Have another podcast for the weekend. But anyways, man, thank you for tapping in. Until next time, that is a wrap.